seems appropriate that we start with a minute silence in memory of MS Nicholas II. So if you'd be willing to stay with me for a minute silence. Thank you very much. It also seems appropriate that we remember Kevin Pearce, who did some part of the work with us and also who died recently. So our thoughts go out to his family as well. Thank you very much. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Yes, had apologies from Councillor Fuller, Councillor Arnold, Councillor King and Councillor Dubois.
Brilliant. It's usually unusual nature for those extraordinary meetings, so are we okay to accept those? Yeah. Thank you very much indeed. Declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest that's coming up?
There's a museum item. Is there anybody who's...
Yes, I'll declare umpteen different interests in that capacity.
Lovely, thank you very much. If anything comes up, do please raise it, obviously, at the time. Minutes of the previous meeting, I've got a set of those here. It'd be okay for me to sign those. Any questions or queries? David's willing to propose them. Someone second, please. Jerry, thank you very much. Everyone's okay for me to sign them? Yep, thank you very much. Very much indeed. Public participation from interested parties. Do we have any interested parties? Or do you want to? We can go through the next couple of items and come to you as well.
It's just a very quick one, really. Flattenfield Association would like to hold a Halloween do primarily aimed at sort of primary aged children on Saturday 29th of October. We're not totally sure of the current situation regarding public liability insurance from NNC. As such, I asked Emma whether it would be feasible for the council to ask their insurers if they would cover the event. The castles, probably about, I believe, 50 to 150 people maybe. So it's not going to be a huge event, but obviously we do want to ensure that we are covered should there be any public liability issues. So that's our request, really.
So this comes up under item 226001. Do we want to consider that now? We've got two other items beforehand that won't have the information. So. Yeah. Any Fors or against? It seems a reasonable request if we're happy to be associated with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're all nodding our approval. Do we need to vote on that? We're okay with that.
That's okay, if you all agree.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Go. So just quickly going back, 2258, consideration of requests from interested parties, and 2150 or 2259, North Northampton Council report.
Nothing, and apologies from both Councillor Harrison and then later on today, councillor Best.
Okay, thank you very much. So 2261, council matters to receive the mayor's report. For a couple of months, Ukraine and the cemetery both pop up. There's a little report on the front there about working in the cemetery, which I rather enjoy. Spent quite a lot of time down there. I haven't been back since. I'm missing it. I need to find some time now. On the 31st of July, I went to the Clapton Mayor's Civic Service. It was made to feel very like a poor cousin for not having a civic service. Did we ever have a civic service?
Don't think we've had one in the 36 years I've been on
Clapton put
council.
on a big spread
What
with
is it?
sandwiches. We went to surprise people in the church. We didn't
We've
know
always
we
gone
had
to
anything.
other people's.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
regular.
Oh,
then
like, it's a church.
it's a church service, yeah.
It's a
We
church
processed from
service.
the offices. It was all a bit weird. But I talked to nice people, so that's fine.
We seem to have mayors who won't even wear the chain at the moment, so I'm not quite sure how much of a position we would have. I mean, that's how it used to be, wasn't it?
I had the
The
chair,
other
I
way.
was fully
Yes.
suited and booted.
Oh, yeah,
They are
I'm
fairly
saying
small
it
events.
with my tongue in my cheek a bit, but it's about procession and.
There was a lot of procession, a lot of gowns. I got very ungowned, but I'm not the co-op, so it's all fine. But yes, whether we should have a civic service or something to get people here, maybe to the brewery, I don't know, anyhow. I meet them all, they all want to come to the brewery, they want to come to the brewery. We had a very long conversation about where it changed from Nen to Nen. Old Winkle was about 5 minutes. But they're very keen to come to the brewery. One mayor said he'd never been to an so
Perhaps it is time then that we held some sort of an event and invited people.
Maybe we
That's absolutely important.
It's a bit far away. Anyhow, so the cemetery's there, some rough calculations if you're interested. We're going to run out of growth soon, but that comes along later. Thanks to Emma and everyone and staff about the appraisal. I went to a family fun day at Fairline, and it was fun. Lots of families. I had no idea Fairline was as big as it was. 600 employees. Most of them don't live in Elmore. But great place, amazing stuff inside. I was stunned. I met the MD, it was very nice, and they'd like to work with us on various things, but I'm not sure it's going to come of that. Operation London Bridge, obviously, so thanks to Emma and everyone at St Peter's for making that all work so well. And I put on the back of the report the message of condolence we sent through to Buckingham Palace and some information about the charging point, but that comes up later in a separate issue anyhow. So there we go. 226102, the clerk's report. Anything of any particular excitement?
Not really. It was pretty much dominated in September with the Operation London Bridge, but fairly quiet in August. A few correspondence from members of the public, and the crime stats
Thank you very much.
about average.
We then have a request to look at the Civility and Respect Pledge, which I have some paperwork here. It's basically encouraging politeness, courtesy behaviour, speech and written word. And it comes from now Society of Local Council Clerks and some people in Wales. And we have the option to sign up to the pledge and say that we've done certain things. We want the paperwork.
Seems a small number of councillors to be here to make that decision if you're going to commit everybody to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if it might be more appropriate to do it and put a better turnout.
But defer it to another meeting, October meeting.
If we're going to be serious about it, that seems fair.
Yeah, that's what I feel.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Are we happy with that?
Happy with that.
Thank you very much indeed.
It's not because I want not to get involved.
Yeah.
Parting shot.
Whether you'll still believe Councillor Holland when she's proposed that everything is deferred to the next meeting.
226104, this is to consider extending the cemetery land within our existing land currently, I suppose, to being what is being presently used.
from what I read of the documentation, it said the first thing to do is ask the experts whether it's sensible to do it. So if the question is, should we ask the experts, I'll say, yes, I'm in favour of asking the experts.
I think one of the issues was floodplain, wasn't it?
Mm.
And certainly at the top of the cemetery is not floodplain. And is this coming up on tomorrow night's estates meeting? Well, it seems to be on the agenda for that as well.
Oh, is it? I don't know.
So, and
I was surprised it was on here as it hadn't been to the States.
it's coming up tomorrow night.
Well, I've been emailed and asked to put it on this
Oh.
agenda.
Right.
So if Councillor Holland doing it, I would propose that we actually defer this item, let estates look at it tomorrow night, and they can make a recommendation to us for October.
Did I do that?
You asking it?
Did I just put this one on now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Fair enough, we're going to estates tomorrow. I think the general view is we've asked who will be in membership on that.
The ICCN,
they've
and that
said-
was the information they sent back,
They've
but,
said it's fine as long as.
mm.
They also say you should talk to the experts.
yeah, so I suppose cemetery land. I mean, they would most probably be able to put us in touch with
If
somebody.
we discuss it at the estates.
Yeah, I'll just put be
We
discussed
need
at
to
the
approve
stage.
this as well, sorry about that.
It says.
Consider 226105, consider information relating to the Anvil Museum lease. I think I understood some of this. Does anyone else understand it more than I do?
I suppose I'll say something and I'll withdraw in the circumstances. This is turning into a bit of a saga. But suffice it to say that the council's solicitors provided a draft lease to replace the existing lease, which was for a 20-year term. It was my understanding as a councillor and as a trustee of the museum that this council had agreed that the new lease would also be a 20-year lease. One of the reasons for that is they needed a lease of that kind of length to secure funding. However, instead of the new lease coming with a 20-year term, for reasons that are entirely unclear to me, it came forward with a 7-year term, which is not considered sufficient. Not only did it come forward with that, but it came forward with a raft of changes to the original terms of the lease, making it significantly less attractive in a number of ways. As a result, when this was considered by the museum trustees at their last meeting, they decided to instruct the solicitor who was helping them, just happens to be me, to communicate with the council solicitors and say, essentially, this lease just isn't right and it's not good enough. And to give you some idea, amongst other things, the lease said that this council's offices were based at Queen Victoria Hall. In other words, somebody had looked at the old document and had simply lifted that and hadn't thought for a moment. I had anticipated, and indeed the normal event is, that when you're talking about a renewal of a lease, broadly speaking, the lease that comes out is largely identical to the one that you had before, unless the parties have agreed something different, although of course it may be coming into a different rent. That was the next problem, because the rent review clause in the new lease links the rent to market rents, which is not the situation in the existing lease, and raises all sorts of possibilities as to what the cost of those premises might be if reviewed on a market rent basis. So essentially the trustees rejected it. On their behalf, I wrote to the council solicitors over a fortnight ago to explain all of this, since which time nothing. But I anticipate that that may be because council solicitors may have communicated with the clerk, and the clerk may be looking to this meeting in order to...
Well, I forwarded what I got, but can I just say, I didn't see that lease at all until I spoke to Diana, and she gave me a copy of that lease about 2 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago. And that was when I contacted you, David, he said.
Clearly, something has gone wrong, to be charitable. You wouldn't expect a lawyer to send out a draft document on behalf of a client without checking with the client first.
Never saw that. Yeah,
Clearly that didn't happen, because I rather suspect if our clerk had seen it, our
Yeah.
clerk would have been saying, try again, John. Anyway, I think that since I'm not only a trustee of the museum, but I'm actually providing free of charge, I guess, about legal services to them, it probably isn't appropriate for me to sit in on any discussion. So I'll just have a wander down the corridor.
Whilst David leaves the room, Emma, I couldn't work out who this letter was actually from.
it's from our solicitor, Hunton Coons.
And then you just mentioned Diana. Who's Diana?
Diana is the secretary of the Museum Trust, who came to see me about the lease. But by all accounts, the lease was sent out sometime last year, like last September or something. But I only actually saw it 3 weeks ago.
Right, doesn't sound like a great state of affairs.
I can't hear.
Sorry, it doesn't sound like a great state of affairs.
I thought we were using another company to do
Yeah, we were, but we were using a company called Seaton's.
Yes.
At the time, they wouldn't take this on. They weren't taking any more work on.
Oh, I see.
So we then went with Hunton Coons. But since then, we're now for the leases for the tenants in the courthouse, we're with another solicitor. But with yet another solicitor, because we're not with Hunton Coons.
Because, yeah,
But I get the impression that now the lease is going to be pretty much similar to what the other lease was, with just the change to the 20-year term and the rent.
And this clause about personal liability.
Yeah, and that, yeah.
So effectively, this has now been bypassed by them. Is that right?
Well, all I need to, if you're happy for me to go back to our solicitor and say, yes, you're happy with that, that clause being included and 20-year. I mean, I don't know where 7 came from. I really don't know where that came from, because it's always been 20 years. And the rent. And then hopefully I will get to see that draft lease before it.
Before we all retire. That's
Yeah,
sounds fine. Because that's what we agreed
Yeah.
a while ago.
I mean, just,
I think there's been a lot of delays on this. Not necessarily from our solicitor, from a lot of different reasons.
So we consider the information and we're happy for you to go ahead as proposed as planned.
Just one reservation, that Emma expressly asked to see the corrected lease before we all go final.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're still discussing this in December.
Absolutely. Right, I'll try and get David's attention. He's down the end, but he's looking pondering. He's looking thoughtful. I've been watching television programs. I do, thank you very much. So 226106, proposal to change the name of Fletton House to Queen Elizabeth House. David, it's been.
It did. I was, like many people, pretty traumatised by recent events. Her Majesty has been on the throne for the whole of my life. The passing was a matter of great sadness. And whilst at home, whilst reflecting on it, it struck me that one thing that this council could perhaps do to honour her memory would be to change the name of this building to align it with Her Majesty's name. We already have a Queen Victoria Hall to celebrate Queen Victoria. And it struck me that it would be a very worthwhile gesture to consider naming something within the town after the late Queen. And frankly, this building seems to me to be a perfect example of something that could be renamed in her honour. So I asked if we could consider that at this meeting. I don't really have much more to say on the subject, but it just struck me that it would be something that we could do very tangibly, would be seen and recognised by the whole town and remembered for generations perhaps to come.
Seems very appropriate. Any thoughts at all? Suppose I had 3 questions. First of all, is it Queen Elizabeth House or Queen Elizabeth II? Does that complicate it?
I have no particular preference. I mean, as to whether you call it Queen Elizabeth House, Queen Elizabeth II House, or you call it Queen Elizabeth Hall or something, you know, in the Victoria Hall. House probably fits its function rather better
Absolutely.
because a hall suggests something like the QBH, a place of potentially public resort for entertainment, whereas this has an administrative function. I suppose calling it the Queen Elizabeth II House does avoid the complication in case anybody thought we were celebrating a rather earlier.
I must say, the historian would be, but it
Arguably
doesn't,
equally successful.
it doesn't roll off the tongue quite so well.
It doesn't roll off the tongue quite as well, but
Secondly, I was going to ask, are we losing anything if we change the name from Flatton? Is there a particularly
Um,
important reason apart from placing in Peterborough?
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't know how easy it is because it's all registered as Fletton House. It's in Fletton Way. I don't know how easy it would be to do this.
I think on a practical level, probably not that difficult. I mean, you can go to HM Land Registry and seek a change. Obviously, you'd need to change it through the post office. Which perhaps would be the 2 key things. I accept it would also mean that our kind of letter headings and so on would all need
And all of our
changing.
signage all around
And
the town.
signage in certain places would need changing. It's not something without, as it were, an economic cost and a time cost. It's still something I would like us to do.
Well, I wonder if maybe we should call Fletton Field Queen Elizabeth Field or something, because that would, provided we get it, which we think we're going to, because that would be a new thing, rather than renaming something that's already in existence. And possibly, it's a thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it worth finding out? It's very commendable. I think it's certainly something people would find popular. Is it worth finding out the ramifications of it? Jerry?
I think, sorry.
Yes, first of all, I support Val's view, which would be a historic compromise. Secondly, I agree we should have a measure of consultation to ascertain feelings generally. Thirdly, should we go ahead, I would suggest we call it Queen Elizabeth House, definitely, and Queen Elizabeth II House. In fact, we can hang that fairly on the fact that Queen Elizabeth I was Queen of England only, whereas both our late sovereign and Queen Victoria, who was also Empress of India, were sovereigns of the United Kingdom post 1603.
Okay, that's right. Jerry?
I was just going to say that I think I'm probably in favour of letting you use it for the field rather than the house is an interesting one because maybe that's something new and something that would register people more. But the main point I was going to make really was we don't need to hurry to do this. We can do it. Yeah. I mean, we haven't crowned our new king yet. We can do it after the coronation. We could do it. We could.
Oh, absolutely.
So we've got plenty of time to consult more widely in the community and with the other councillors who aren't here. So I would think.
I think Fletton Field option is a good idea. My other thought was I think one of the 2 benches that's going to go into the recreation ground. I know it's one's for the Jubilee, but I thought you could also put something on that as well.
There was some thought about making one sort of COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, or not having a COVID one and having one
But
for
the will meet again sign that covers all sorts of references, doesn't it? So, yeah, good
I mean, in
idea.
terms of Councillor Chess's suggestion, I think if we were fortunate enough to secure Flatton Field, there is an attraction to doing that. on the basis that it is a new asset to the town.
Yeah.
And would be an equally acceptable way of honouring it. And I take Councillor Hutton's point on board. Although I was sort of struck by it and asked to put it on the agenda immediately, it's not something where we have to rush into a decision. So perhaps going along with what Councillor Hutton suggests, let's consult more widely. And perhaps when it's clearer whether we're likely to get Flettonfield or not, we can make a decision. If we unfortunately don't get it, then we can revisit the idea of renaming this building.
I'm in favour of that.
We find out what the ramifications are and revisit it.
So can we talk about it in the sense that we can test people's,
I'm urging people to do so. I doubt that we would find that there was, as it were, a groundswell against the idea of renaming the building, but if there is, and I've misjudged the public mood, so be it.
It's now open debate, isn't it? Because this is.
It's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda.
well, then it gives
Just
us
making it
ownership to the town.
Yes.
That's one thing.
Is it worth reporting that we had this discussion in the next advertiser and just saying
Yeah,
conversations are ongoing?
Yeah.
Let us know what you think.
um,
And if anyone has any strong feelings.
do you want me to say, you know, another idea was, or shall I not say that?
Just say, it was raised and we're looking at ideas.
Ideas, yeah.
And see what people accost us with. Thank you very much. 226107, information from G or Chard.G or whatever it is, I still can't work out. I put the dot in the wrong place. So it's all at charging point. There are details here. Lisa and I met with this guy, Rob, who's very muscular. It's a 15-year contract. It's a 15-year, when he looms over you on the team meeting. It's a 15-year contract, but it's got a 15-year warranty, and there's all those lovely things. It's basically the chance for us to get a charging point for nothing on the back of the building. We would get 10% of any charging revenues that go through it, plus payment for any electricity use. So the AA, in a branded emergency phone line deal with any problems, it seems like it's something for nothing, and it's our best chance of getting a free charging point. I'm not sure how well it will be used, but that's not our problem. And we would be able to use it if we wanted to. It's not the cheapest method of charging, it's about 40p a unit, which is quite pricey, but if you don't have another option now, it's probably better than nothing. There are different structures you can get, but if you use it regularly, there are cheaper ways of doing it. But they're very keen for us. The big thing for them is for them to be able to do it for free. They're pulling lots of funding from different sources, and it has to be publicly accessible 24 hours a day. And our car park is publicly accessible 24 hours a day, so they're very keen. So, yeah, there's the information. Any thoughts?
Did we not recommend this from States?
I think it's coming up on our agenda again tomorrow as well. So
Oh,
yeah, I think we did, but I think they were going to come do a survey. They've now done a survey.
Oh,
And they've given us two options, one of which is you can pay for some of the groundworks for a trial, which would be £2,000, and then after a couple of months we could agree to get rid of it, or they'll do it for free. Cool.
Sounds like a no-brainer. if
Well,
I heard it.
yeah, I was just going to say, it's not, I'm just going to go away. I can't see any issues really with it. I can't, that's why we would just go for it.
Yeah, that's fine. And,
It improves our green credentials.
no, absolutely, absolutely.
Just one question. How much involvement as staff do we have, like if it goes wrong or what?
None.
So,
So I drive up,
Mm.
I plug in, there's a problem, there's a number on it, there's no apps, there's a number on it, I phone it, someone from the AA comes and does things, and they come and fix things.
right, okay.
So in theory, there is absolutely definite that there's nothing to do with us. So that's why I answer those questions.
Mm.
I'm sure there'll be situations where people come knock on the door or something, because that's human nature, but the theory is that it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, okay.
So, Jerry, you're effectively.
Oh, voting, yeah.
So we're all happy to go over that?
Yeah.
Lovely, thank you very much. I think we need to send them a purchase order. Do we do purchase orders?
We don't use,
No. But we need to pay
but I
costs.
tend to just see the use a name and a day or something like that.
The
So do you want me- Is this now going to be discussed in the state? So is Lisa then going to take this and go back to him and
Well, we
say,
can go to the States tomorrow and say we've approved it, and the States can then enact it. And the States can enact it
Bureaucracy
tomorrow.
in motion.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can defer it to next week. 226108, to receive an invitation from Volunteer Action to attend the Support or Recognition event and agree representative. So this is two levels of Volunteer Action. There's two meetings, I think. Yes, Joe.
I was going to say, I'm going to lunch someone anyway as a volunteer, so it doesn't mean I'll, well, no one else can go, it's representing council volunteer anyway.
With permission, I have put the evening one in my diary, so I will try and attend that one if that's okay. So we can cover.
Just do you want me to attend with any sort of councillor ability to say thank you or anything? And that's a question for Liz or anyone else.
That seems a good idea.
Seems to make sense. You're
I've
happy
always-
to do that.
Yeah.
I've seen for your lunch and I've seen for my supper.
so you're going to go to the day one then as
I've
well?
already
You're already going, but
I've
you're
already
going,
accepted the invitation to go as a volunteer, so.
but you'll be dual hatted.
I can, yeah, I'll make the point that I'm wearing two hats and say thank you very much. And
Yeah,
that's
okay.
what you do. All I do, thank you very much, that's all I do.
You're going to pack yourself in,
Yeah.
declare an interest as well. So you're Queen Victoria Hall?
Yeah.
Did we get a different spread?
You know what, I'm not even going to be
Well, we'll zoom you in on a Teams meeting. Okay, thank you very much. 226109, appointed representative of the Museum Trust following the resignation of a councillor. Any volunteers?
I mean, it's disappointing that we're in this situation because councillors may recall that we changed our standing orders at the request of the Museum Trust, so that when we appointed councillor representatives, we appointed them for the whole of their 4-year term as councillors to be trustee members. And it's gone rather spectacularly wrong relatively quickly because Councillor King has tendered his resignation. I must admit, I did try to contact him to find out why, but I haven't heard from him, so I simply don't know why. It would be obviously useful for the council to have its full complement of council trustees. But I'm equally conscious of the fact that there's only half the council present tonight. And if there's nobody rushing to volunteer, and two of us are on it already, then maybe we need to put it to
So we can
the
defer.
rest of the
Can we
council.
defer it to the October meeting?
Brilliant, thank you very much. 226201, to approve the bank reconciliation balance sheet and budget for July and August. The Finance Committee has seen rigorously gone through earlier this evening. Any questions, queries beyond what we spoke about in here?
So should we approve it?
That's fine, I'm happy to second that, we're all okay with that? You okay?
Yeah, sorry.
Lovely, that's fine, thank you very much indeed. Payments for July 2022. Proposed schedule of payments for July and retrospectively approved. Did we pay the ones?
In August.
I think, didn't we agree?
And you agreed at the
to
July
that?
meeting, that's what
Now
we
we're
would
sort
do.
of approving the action.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one.
So we agreed the principle before this
Yeah.
happened,
And now we're approving that we have.
simply to try and avoid having the next.
I'm happy to propose that we pay the ones we've already paid. Thank you very much. And then a proposition to pay the ones coming up in
Yeah.
August. I've got some fairly cheeky ones.
Yeah.
But there we go.
It's big this time.
There's some big wall bills, etc. So yeah, I'm happy to propose that we pay the one in August. Are you okay to do that? Thank you very much. 226204, to consider opting out of the small authorities audit appointment central procurement arrangement. It sounded exciting, but I read the brochure, so why would you want to?
If you want, yeah.
So is anyone desperate to opt out of the small authorities audit arrangement? So we consider that, I think we can move on, thank you very much. To approve the quote for marshalling the Christmas market event. Seems like a lot of money, but it's half what it was 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm.
They all seem very cheery.
And very-
They seem
and
to
they're
know
very
what they're doing, so I'm happy to propose that we pay that. I'll second it. We're all okay with that, thank you very much. To receive an internal control check for Q1 of the financial year. We have a copy of this signed by our inspectors. Verification councillors who said thank you very much. Sent an email back, so that's okay. And to approve the quote of £565 for fire safety
Sorry,
training.
Ian, before we just move on from that, so I have been an internal control checker. And that in fact is the last time that I'll be involved. So Jerry will be on his own in October, unless there is a more volunteer.
I've written Liz's question mark down here.
Oh, have you? Oh,
So,
right.
yes.
Okay.
I presumably can't be, because
You can't be,
You can't be a signatory.
yeah, you can't be a signatory.
that's the rest of it, isn't it? Okay.
You've done the signature as well, so
Probably are. Again, we can check with everyone else when they're here as well, if that's okay. Are we okay to operate for,
Well, we've got one in October, if you're okay, Jerry, to go through both, and then at the October meeting, I'll put it on the agenda.
thank you very much indeed. And Liz, thank you for everything you've done on this as well, and Jerry as well.
Thank you.
226207, approve a quote of £565 for fire safety training. Does this involve letting off fire extinguishers?
Yeah.
Should the councillors be there as well?
Do it in the car park.
Sounds exciting. Yes. I'm more than happy to propose this.
Well, last time you didn't mind having a whole raft of people.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I
you
mean,
know, you'll take
we
a-
can
it's the
take
same
it to-
time,
yeah.
it'll take a lot of people.
14th
Yeah.
October. Turn up for fun.
Yeah.
I've
It's the
proposed,
same time.
Jerry seconded it, we all okay to vote on that? Thank you very much indeed. Highway matters, to consider a request from the
So-
resident. to have-
Will you send that out to me at VA?
I just need to double check, this is a different company we're using, I
Oh,
just
okay.
need to double check on numbers, because we got 9, I'm sure he said 15,
Yeah,
but I will just double check.
yeah, because if there is a space, I'd quite
Yeah.
like to send some.
There's people that are going to should have priority.
Yeah.
People that might be
Just want to be there.
just want to have a fun and have it already. So this is a request of a resident about the yellow lines. It doesn't sound that exciting, but their point is very strong, and the new yellow lines seem to be built with radioactive painting, and are very thick and are very yellow. I think the idea is that we as a council say we like conservation yellow lines, and we tell highways and they do what they do. They-
a feeling that there's almost certainly a minimum prescribed width for a yellow line to be a valid yellow line. I'm not sure that I'm right, but it would not surprise me in the slightest.
Sarah Barnes
But-
gave us quite a good answer, actually.
Has she?
Yeah.
I haven't seen any.
No, that's why I thought I'd stop you.
Thank you, before I make any more of an idiot of
No,
myself.
not you, David, but just to say, you know, in fact, we have had already some advice.
Well, I'm certainly in favour of anything that enhances the conservation area as opposed to make it look
Right.
pretty.
My recollection of Sarah's advice was it might be a bit odd if you do it piecemeal, but then she also made the point that actually it's so piecemeal at the moment anyway, that maybe it wouldn't hurt. And on that basis, I thought, well, actually, if we just ask them to do all future ones in the village
Future ones,
style,
yeah.
we'll get there eventually.
She basically spends most of the reply here saying that ripping up the old ones would be problematic, but doesn't say that it's an idea in the future. So I think if we're happy to recommend that we like it, that gives some to the recommendation. And certainly that picture there of the old ones and the conservation line and the new radioactive ones is it's pretty blunt.
It's very kind.
So do we need to vote on that, or are we all happy to?
No, that's fine.
That's fine.
So I assume that because every year we get a list of potential double yellow lines that they're going to put in where they've been requested. So when that comes in, do we then say each time we want thinner ones, or can I just
I think we should just say to Sarah.
ask
from now
Sarah
on, we
from
can-
now on?
It's only in the conservation area, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
so not.
I mean, that's, yes.
So just say next time.
I mean, having said that, I've seen that photograph, I'd much rather that we have the yellow lines anywhere they were of that
Oh.
type, even if it was outside the conservation area. So,
Just say we've had a vote on it.
Yeah. I'll write back to them saying,
And then every time they've sent us new ones, we need some sort of remember to
have a look, see if it's in the
Full
conservation
list.
area.
So we like them so much, we like them everywhere. 226302, the speed indicator device, which has got a lovely smiley face on now, which I still haven't managed to get it going on my bike. I did try. And I mentioned in my report that a couple of weeks ago I was cycling home at night and someone had been hit by what appeared to be a speeding car just in front of it, and on a bike, and they were hospitalised. And the word was the car was moving very fast, but there was nothing came up from the indicator, but potentially they slowed down. It was a hit run. So
That was when the road was closed then.
So, yeah, judging by the data, it seems to be working. There are
Yeah,
fewer speeding incidences, as one would imagine, and it looks okay, but clearly we can't guarantee.
it seems better on that road than it was in
I think it's
West.
more visible.
Yeah,
I think when you come around the corner, it's very shiny, smiley face. Maybe the face makes a difference.
but it's worrying that people are quite happy to really speed on West Street.
Yeah.
That you would think they wouldn't be able to, but they do.
Should we send that to the police so they can get excited if there's been a change in
We have
behaviour?
sent it to the police and we get no feedback.
Probably just do.
Yeah. Well, we did.
Not say we don't have them anymore. It's good. So thank you for that. Is he going to move again?
Yeah, I'm going to speak to Nobby and ask him now to move it, or he'll move it in the next couple of weeks.
It's certainly a good thing.
But when I looked at the statistics, I was a bit surprised there was no one under 31. So every car, according to this, was doing at least
No.
31.
I looked at that, because there's 118,000.
So it's just the ones that weren't.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because
On the
the data Rebecca sent through on that incident, there were 2 people doing 2 or 3 miles an hour. I suspect one of those was me on the bike. When I had stopped, I was going uphill.
So I was quite encouraged, even more encouraged now that you pointed out.
Yeah.
But most,
Yeah.
by far, most people were doing less.
It was a significantly lower number of speed.
But even, I mean, I know, 40 is well above, but I mean, you're always going to have a few idiots, but the vast majority are pretty serious.
Is it worth doing something in the next advertiser about that, or waiting until we have some more data maybe?
We can put something in there, yeah, we can.
226401, minutes of the planning committee on the 6th of September. David, anything you want to
With the other pieces of paper, I realise I haven't got with me. From recollection, the big one was the return yet again on the Stepwell Road application, which yet again we were not happy with. But no, I don't think there was anything particularly that I would want to draw attention to, unless anybody has anything they want to raise.
No, that's cool.
I don't know whether this was the meeting that you discussed, having the meeting with Councillor Harrison.
Right.
Plan-
That was in August.
Because I'm getting a little bit confused about who to invite and what exactly, because we've got planning officers being talked about now. But maybe when this meeting's finished, we can.
Yeah, that was the only planning meeting I've been to. The original view was that we should get Helen and senior planning officials, heads of department in at some point to talk about those 2 big things, transport and infrastructure. Right.
Yeah, broadly speaking.
In fact, over the past week at least, there's been a high degree of email traffic between me, Emma, Ian, and David, which followed earlier discussions, I think, before effectively we broke up for the holidays. I think the consensus that was reached before then was that effectively, in our discussions with Helen, we would want to focus on two major general issues. First of all, need to ensure, need to gently ask Helen to ensure that planning enforcement officers keep on top of the developers for the Cotterstock Road and the Crystal Drive site to make sure they comply. The second major factor would be looking to the future. In other words, trying to ensure that in future, before, given that central government wants to build more houses, and we want to build in the right place, and want to a very early warning, a chance to ensure it's either done properly or it's not done at all for Arundel, that there are discussions at the regional level closer to us to ensure that our views are fully taken into account before zoning areas are discussed and before core spatial strategies are so set that we're locked into them to in effect. And also, it can be an opportunity for ensuring that at very formative levels, before things get very far, infrastructure as a whole is in a position to catch up. So I may not have expressed this very succinctly now, but I think the email traffic was fairly clear and sets out what I recommend. So it's now here really up to you and Lisa to take it forward. In terms of officers, I take the view that we should deliberately leave the ball in Helen's court as to which officers she brings.
The aim was to get as high level as Helen could get her hands on, build a meeting around that.
Okay, so I'll originally just send an email to Helen.
And that's what we wanted to do in the first place.
And you want it to be an evening meeting? Are you
It
preference?
depends on her diary.
Right, preferably from my point of view, but I accept that may turn out to be difficult. If we can get councillors who can attend a daytime meeting, I suspect Mr. Lycol could, so be it.
There was some discussion about getting it on the night of annual meeting, earlier or later, but it depends on Helen's diary.
Right, okay.
So,
And on how long it's likely to take, because
Mm.
you can do what we did tonight and have a meeting at 7 and a meeting that starts at 8, for example. But if that first meeting is going to take longer than an hour, probably needs a separate go.
Yeah, okay.
the transport on the 13th, depends on Helen's diary. But the sooner we ask, the sooner I can do some dates. Thank you very much. 2265 Estates Management. There's nothing here. Oh, sorry,
These are all homes came to the last planning meeting specifically to inform us as a matter of courtesy that they were thinking that they would need to get a proper facility as opposed to they've got now. I think they sort of trying to stand us out to initial reactions and things that I think it's a matter of courtesy to talk about it. Interestingly enough, we were talking about a slightly different context earlier. It is phenomenally successful locally, and I am sure, as we kind of indicated from planning, that we are very likely to be sympathetic to their needs. They, of course, are tenants of the school, so they need to have the school on board with them. But I think they see that as potentially enhancing what the school have already got, if they put it in proper facilities. So it's really a question of watch this space. They're not asking for any specific number of funds to fill. I think they probably are looking at that from what I can gather. I think that was what they were suggesting. It would be broadly speaking in the same place. Therefore, it's less likely to be rejected because we used to have a structure that maybe somewhat bigger. Stuff right in the middle of the open space, we might have a somewhat different view. But I think as long as it is a sensible construction and broad application, it's likely to find favour with the council. I'll keep you informed. to
Thank you very much. Estates management, nothing
Nothing.
here, meeting tomorrow night. 2266 communications, latest article for the advertising. All good and positive. 2267, a letter from Buckingham Palace in response to the letter we sent about the platform Jubilee. Is it worth, again, the advertising is probably full for next time, is it worth publishing any of those in there, or
What the,
the letter back from the Palace, just probably help you. 226702, the Employment Board newsletter, and 226703, the list of days of town parish meetings with the Commissioner. Is Commissioner coming to see us, or is that still online? Is that online?
yeah, I think they're all Zoom ones.
Got excited stuff. 2268, any other relevant matters? Rupert,
Nothing to add?
Liz,
No, thanks.
Jerry?
Just one, I know that the Coxstock Road development included in its planning a decision or advice that the 30 mile an hour limits would be moved to the, well, more or less around the town sides actually, around the bend. But it hasn't been done yet. And when you drive into town from that area, it now very much feels like you are going into the town, having sort of fenced off and building stuff, and it's there. So I presume it's highways you need to do that.
So I didn't hear the
The,
beginning.
the 30 mile an hour limit on Coxstock Road as you enter Arundel.
Mhm.
The developers said they would ask for the limit to be moved to where the Arundel town entry sign is currently,
Right,
which is before the bend on the way into the town before
Yeah.
development. They're now so well on with the development that it feels like you're coming into Arundel when you
yeah,
get
yeah,
there.
but the sign's not been
The 30
moved.
mile an hour sign is still beyond the end of the development and the start of Old Arundel as was. So can we move the 30 mile an hour limit sign to platform, please?
Well, I think it's certainly worth a letter to Highways to say, look, that was part of it, when is this actually happening? Because we think it should be happening now. So I would agree with Councillor Hutton, the sooner it's done, the better.
I would suspect they'll say that it's part of the Ghost Island development, which has to be finished by the time of first occupation.
Mm.
But I think it's an investment question.
No, absolutely.
I don't see, if they do say that, fair enough, but I don't see why it can't be 30 miles from now on, because you pass the town sign, you go around a bend and you're in the development.
I think it's just probably got caught up in being part of those plans. So if we can get.
Yeah, not. Mhm.
David? Nothing for me. I was just going to thank Liz for all of her service to the council in a short period of time, but she's been brilliant and she will be heartily missed. So on my behalf, and I'm sure those of everyone who isn't here as well as is here, thank you very much and have a wonderful move. 4 rounds of applause, is that? Thank you very much. And on that bittersweet note, I'm going to close everything up. Thank you very much indeed.